Epic Games just completely destroyed the turbo building mechanics from Fortnite, thrusting it into the past. They returned to the time between subsequent turbo build placement time from 0.5 to 0.15 seconds. With this change, the first placement of each piece remains the same as before, at 0.05 seconds. It's only now that when you hold turbo build, each piece afterwards is going to be made 3 times slower than it used to. What an absolute mess. The reasoning stated that this was intended to level the playing field regarding ping when it comes to turtling. And while it did achieve its goal of nerfing turtling, there may have been some unintended side effects. They recently released a blog post stating their reasons for the change. They noted this. So what do you guys think? Is this justifiable? People were practicing hours on end just to get a slap to their face. I mean, if they were doing this to set the building back into the past, then it's partially understandable. But I still think the way they did it was uncalled for. Hit that like button to show Epic what they've done. Unsurprisingly though, such a small change to the game's core mechanic has completely changed how you play now. But before we jump into it, we're adding a ton of new features to our site. Exclusive guide and analysis videos for our pro members. Also, Pro Pass now grants access to all games. We also have more free coaching passes and points for InstaPro if you're a pro member. So head on over to Pro Guides by clicking the link in the description below. So this change has a lot of players saying that building techniques are ruined now, at least in the way people are used to doing them. And it's partially true. Moves like the 90s double floor wall ramping and tunneling have all gotten hit hard. You can't attempt any of these techniques anymore, at least at the speed you could before, without messing up in some way. I mean, check out Cypher trying to do some 90s after playing a few games in the new patch. It doesn't look pretty at all. It's slow, some pieces aren't placing, and then he messes up at the end. Sure, the patch is brand new, and it might take some time to get a solid grasp on the new building speed, but players were so used to doing these techniques at the fastest speeds possible before. Now you have to slow it down and be a lot more deliberate with each piece. In a way, this lowers the skill ceiling on what can be done with builds. Some people believe that turbo building took no skill. Pro players like Mongrel, Benji, and Mr. Savage already expressed their distaste towards this new change, even going so far as refusing to play the game on patch day. I mean, think about it, so many players out there dedicated countless hundreds of hours working on and perfecting their building techniques, and for Epic to suddenly make a change that takes us back to pre-Season 4 building throws everyone's progress since then right in the trash. With how Epic's reasoning was worded, we have no reason to believe that this was an intended nerf on building as a whole. It seems as if they tried to nerf turtling, but did it in a way that was so inelegant that it pretty much messed with how the whole mechanic operated. However, they just released a new update status, this. So it seems like Fortnite is strong-arming this and won't be reverting the patch, at least not entirely. But something I got off the text is very peculiar. It seems they will be making sure uncontested builds get reverted, but when builds are in contention, as an example being shot at or pickaxed, they don't want that to be ping-based. As much as the bad news may seem, there are always individuals who will persist no matter what. While turbo building may have been nerfed hard, it turned out that there's a workaround which can actually help you almost build as fast as before. So what Epic didn't change in regards to turbo building was the time it takes to place the first structure when you press your build button. The timing on that one is still 0.5 seconds, or the same speed as the previous turbo build. With that, if you just spam press your mouse or trigger button to build, it actually builds faster than turbo build now can, meaning we are officially pre-Season 4. Try this out in game, you'll immediately tell the difference. All you need to do is maintain a mashing speed of about 6.67 presses a second to outpace the current turbo build, and at least for keyboard and mouse players, that isn't too hard to pull off. Sure, it's not as fast as the previous turbo build, but it beats the current one, that's for sure. However, is this a good thing to have in the game? I think we can mostly all agree that nobody would rather spam click than just use turbo build. There really isn't any more skill involved, and it opens the potential for players to abuse third-party software and mouse macros to get the old turbo build speeds again. Cypher, Ninja, and a few others were even talking about how the Logitech G502 mouse, which has a free scrolling wheel design that spins indefinitely, could be used to get the old turbo building speed with almost no extra setup required. And in our eyes, allowing for opportunities to gain such a significant advantage doesn't really level the playing field. People are always looking to give themselves advantages, so why remove the advantage that was balanced for a majority of players? Now, what about turtling? Nerfing turtling was the stated intention behind this change, so let's see what exactly has changed in that regard. Special thanks to Cole from Roadie Bros, who put out an excellent video testing all the changes as soon as they happened. First off, the drum shotgun wasn't able to penetrate a wood wall turbo build. Makes sense, since while it shoots fast for a shotgun, it's not as fast as other weapon types. Then they tested the new auto sniper, which wasn't able to penetrate at all either. So far, turtling is still fine, right? Well, they moved on to proper spam weapons and tested the burst SMG next. The bullets on this gun were able to get through turbo build as long as the wall was low on health before being shot. It seems that if the first bullet can destroy the wall, then 1 or 2 bullets can pass through before another wall gets placed. Eventually, they were able to land enough bullets through the turbo build to get the kill within a few reloads. So that doesn't seem too bad considering most people won't be standing in one spot getting spammed. Not. Against a player with high ping, the suppressed SMG can kill a player through turbo build without needing a single reload. So with this change, it seems as if turtling on high ping may have gotten even worse than before. When they tested firing 2 of them against a low ping player, the bullets would still go through. Not as many of them, but enough that 2 players could shred somebody turtling behind a wall. In some situations, the assault rifle can also now have its bullets hit through turbo building. They tested it against a low ping and a high ping player. Against lower ping players, it seems a single AR can't beat turbo build. However, 2 being fired at the same time can. Against somebody with higher ping, a single AR will likely be able to land some of its shots through the build. Next, the minigun, the weapon with the fastest firing rate in the game. Just take a look at how it shreds through turbo build no matter what. It seems as if even a single minigun should do the trick. They also tested firing 2 RPGs at the same time. Turns out that if you fire them at the same time, the second rocket will have a large enough window to slip past the turbo build. We'd imagine that this also makes the heavy sniper and RPG combo much more powerful now. At this point forward, you're going to need the second piece in your build to protect you against that move. So what can you do to defend yourselves while turtling now? Well, you can always build a second line of defense, like a ramp inside your box. Always use metal or brick when you can, as wood is slightly weaker than those two. Also, as we said before, spam clicking instead of holding turbo build is now faster if you manage to do it quick enough. If this change sticks, or if other changes get made to combat turtling, we're all probably going to have to change the way we play. No more sitting back in a box holding turbo build. We'll have to move to a more proactive playstyle, where we're making plays to change control of the fight in our favor. Things like editing and going for a shot, or editing out and taking the high ground are all types of proactive play that Epic might be trying to push here. In some people's eyes, sitting back in a box holding a button was sort of a lame playstyle anyways, so who knows, maybe the game will end up in a better place because of this change. If you've been around Fortnite discussions at all in the past, you've probably seen people complaining about turtling. Turtling has always been a powerful and effective way of surviving. It even got to the point where players were starting to find ways to abuse the phasing mechanic as a way to get past their opponent's turbo build. Not only that, but for the longest time, players complained about zero ping wall replacers dominating the box fighting meta. Epic probably saw these as problems and wanted to do something to make things more even for everybody. Turtling becoming so effective might just have been the reason Epic went through with this change. Maybe they were tired of seeing players default to boxing up when things weren't going their way. Perhaps they wanted to see players make another move and not just rely on their low ping and holding left click. Some players actually like the change purely for this reason, and for the whole ping discussion, it definitely helps level the playing field for those with higher ping. Being able to live until you ran out of material just because you had low ping was definitely unfair to those that didn't live close to the servers. They couldn't survive by turbo building forever, and now low ping players can't as well. And it wasn't only turtling that low ping players had an advantage with. With how fast turbo building was, low ping players had an advantage when it came to all aspects of build fighting. Being able to get a piece down first because of a 50 ping differential could potentially win you the fight. Maybe Epic saw this as another problem and decided to try to combat it somehow. We saw how long it took for Epic to make significant changes to the mech this season. No one really knows why it took them so long, as player complaints were there from day one of its release. But our theory is that they needed the time to assess their data to make sure the mech was actually impacting the player count negatively before making drastic changes. They have their philosophy on wanting to create an equal playing field for everyone, and their reasoning behind this turbo build change definitely fits with that. However, the community is up in arms again. But as always, that's the vocal minority part of the player base. We have to remember that the majority of people that play Fortnite are complete casuals when it comes to the game. They don't know how to crank 90s, don't know how to wall replace, and don't know what box fighting is. These changes will have little to no negative impact on them. But it can now allow them to more effectively deal with excessive builders and players that relied on turtling to gain an advantage. But with the negative consequences of ruining general building speeds, we might potentially see Epic revert the changes somewhat and look for a more elegant solution to the turtling problem. If that was their true intention behind this change to begin with, we can definitely see them going back to the drawing board and looking for a new way to combat turtling that doesn't hurt other building techniques in the process. So what do you guys think? Will Epic revert what they've done, or are they going to stick with it and see how players react? They've already released a blog post justifying the changes, so it's unlikely. It's not like the pro players out there are going to quit or go on strike or something. With how much they've invested in this game, they're going to keep playing and find new ways to adjust to the changes. And it's entirely normal for the community to have an immediate adverse reaction. Sometimes it takes time for players to figure things out and change their playstyles accordingly. Immediate responses generally aren't something you want to trust fully. We'd say that you need to give this change at least a few more days before you come to a reasonable conclusion. But just by looking at the changes right now, they seem to have impacted building as a whole, while at the same time leaving opportunities and ways to combat the changes. It honestly feels like a half-baked solution to what they were trying to fix. So again, let us know in the comments what you guys think of the change. Do you see it negatively impacting the way you play, or is it going to help you for the better? Tell us, and make sure to include your average ping and arena rating if you have one. That way we can get a better understanding of who this change might be meant for. Alright guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and show ProGuide some love for bringing you this video. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.